Welcome to Growing Through It, a podcast that supports you through the challenges, obstacles, and adversities of life. How can you come out the other side of hard times stronger and more resilient? That's what this podcast is all about. Your host, Jen Arnold, will guide you through life's challenges with expert advice and honest conversations. Don't just go through it, grow through it.
And it's a wrap. Season 1 is officially over. And hello, my name is Jen Arnold, your host. I have decided to wrap up Season 1 and give you a bit of an explanation on kind of why I started this podcast, what was the plan, why the plan fell through, and kind of what's going on with a potential Season 2. Now, first, I want to talk about why I started this podcast. For those of you who don't know me, I don't know if anyone's listening for the first time, but I had a podcast for about 5-ish, maybe 6 years, and it was called the Redesigning Wellness Podcast. It's still out there, and I was in a place where I just wanted to end that. I felt like that journey had been done, and all of the time since I started my business in 2016 until today, and it continues, I've always worked with organizations or in a corporate role. I love that work, but it's also a little bit frustrating because leadership sometimes gets lost and the business output, the productivity takes, precedence over worker well-being. So I found myself last year getting a little bit frustrated and needing to take a break just from the conversation in organizations. So I said to myself, how can I help people within the organizations to take back control of their resilience, their well-being? And that's basically why I started this podcast. I said, how can I help individuals? Because I really don't work with individuals unless an employer hires me to come talk to individuals, which I do all the time. It's just not, I don't go directly to individuals to promote my trainings. And so I started the podcast. The plan where it was to publish 12 episodes at a time, have seasons. So I started season 1 thinking, I'm just going to do 12 episodes. I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back for season 2. That just helps prevent my own burnout. And also, if you don't know this about podcasting, it can be a grind. There was a lot of steps in the process. It's probably the reason why a lot of people start podcasts and they just don't end up sticking to them past about 7 episodes because it's a lot of work. And so one of my solutions was to say, I'll do 12 episodes at a time. I'll take a break. I'll regroup. I'll get the interviews so it doesn't feel like it's this endless grind of getting an episode out. But I didn't do that. I decided just to keep on rolling. And then recently I've gotten busy, so I dropped my Friday solo episodes because I wanted just to hop on by myself on Friday and say, here's what, I'm thinking right now. Here's maybe a lesson you can take away, and here's what's going on in my life. So that was the first thing that dropped. Is that I'm busy. I'm just going to drop that. That'll be fine. And then secondly, I noticed that I wasn't doing a great job at promoting the episodes. And at that point, I said, this isn't really fair to my guests. They're coming on, they're spending their time, and I really need to promote these. So I started noticing that and saying, I'm not really doing that great of a job. So I have really said that let's just let this season 1 be done, wrap it up, and kind of figure out what's next for season 2. And there's a few realizations I've had over the course of these 40 episodes or so. One is that there's a lot of people going through hard times. When I was originally looking for guests, I submitted the podcast to this. It's like a matchmaking service for podcast. For me looking for guests and guests to kind of come on and apply or whatever to be on the podcast. And there's a lot of really sad stories out there. There's people who've lost, their spouses, their children. They've gone through trauma. And so I know it's just a reality of we're all going through something. And even if your life feels really good right now, which I hope that is the case for you, that you've probably been through a hard time. And I hate to say it, we've got some up ahead of us. So I know that is a realization I've had. I've also selfishly realized that this podcast was a way to help me get through some of my own challenges. So on a personal update, my lovely foster dog Kiki got adopted yesterday. It is actually bittersweet because we did a lot of work with her. We housebroke her. She wasn't house. Well, I think that's what's called housebroken. She peed and pooed inside the house. And so we finally got her housebroken. She was sleeping through the night. She was like coming to us when we called her. And then we found her a home. So that just happened yesterday. A little sad, but I'm very glad she's in a good place with a good family that has another golden retriever. And then also I shared some information about some struggles I had, parenting struggles. That's back in a past Real Talk episode. And we really went through it, my husband and I as parents, helping our son who struggles with ADHD. And it got really bad for a while, especially with school, with behavior, with impulsivity. And he's in just so much of a better place now. He's seeing the people he needs to see, and he's just in a much better place. Nothing's perfect because that's life, but the difference between when I recorded that episode, which was last fall, and where I am today is just so much better. So thankfully, I appreciate if you listen to this episode, just indulging me and sharing kind of my personal struggles. And then finally, what I've realized is that my work is really organizationally. There's a lot of work to be done there. And I'm happy to say that there's a lot of organizations that really do want to make the world of work better. And I want to be there to help them and help leaders do better and help us all do better and kind of living with grace and compassion towards ourselves and others. So I am going just to do that work. And if you are on LinkedIn, let's go ahead and connect there. I'll link mine up in the show notes, and let's stay connected. Now, the last thing I want to say is that I have been emailing anyone on my list. It's called 2-Tip Tuesday, every Tuesday for the past whatever episodes that we've had. I am not going to do that exact 2-Tip Tuesday, but what I'm doing is transitioning a little bit to still talk about resilience and well-being, but I'm going to have a focus on kind of leaders within an organization, whether that's HR or the individual manager. Then I'm also going to have a tip for individuals. Like, how can you apply this tip to your own life? So if that sounds good to you, stay on 2-Tip Tuesday. If not, unsubscribe. That is okay too. So finally, thank you so much. If you've been one of my regular listeners, I truly appreciate it. Without you, I wouldn't have even kept it up this long. And we'll see what's in store for the podcast. I may come back on. I may go back to an organizational focus, or I may say there's other ways to get content out there and just take a little break from podcasting for a while. Thank you. Take care of yourselves, and thanks for listening.